One of the risks of being quiet is that people fill your silence with their own interpretation. They say you're bored, you're depressed, you're shy, you're stuck up, you're judgmental. And when they can't read you, they write their own story, which is not always one that is true with who you are. But what if I told you that you're not an introvert, that you're just afraid, and that fear is the real thief of opportunity? Because when you hide behind labels like introvert, what you're really doing is giving fear a home that it doesn't deserve. And I know this because I used to say the same thing. I used to think I was extremely introverted just because I liked being alone. But the truth was quite simple. I liked peace. And when I found myself around people who brought me joy, who made me feel like myself, I realized that I could be the most extroverted person in that room. So you need to change this mindset that introversion is your problem. No, it isn't. The real problem is fear, and it will keep lying to you until you face it. So if you're ready to face it, I'll tell you what to do about it. Now, I constantly get messages from people on my Instagram, on Substack, even on Twitter, and sometimes TikTok, telling me about how they feel like their introversion is a problem. And I often give them my own piece of advice because openly I've shared my journey through introversion to being able to do all the things I'm doing right now with my life. And recently there was one that really just took me, like it really made me think deeper than I would normally think. And I encountered someone who is finishing school, is a content creator, also does a little bit of social media and all of that. And she was basically sharing with me the excitement into how she loves the work she does. And, after all of the amazing things she knows how to do, she's been getting feedback from people she works with saying that, yeah, we believe you're smart, but we think you're not the right person for this job because we're not really seeing your vibe based off the work you do for us. Get this. This person is brilliant. This person is exceptional at what they do. But no one is really seeing that energy because that is not the kind of personality she has. She's more analytical, she's more problem solving oriented, other than just putting out noise. And for the first time, I was able to feel the quiet personality she has. But then, not too many people would say this. Not too many people would understand this. And what seems to be that really amazing personality now seems like a liability to her. And when I got this message, the first thing I asked myself was, how can you evolve in a world where your personality is not convenient or comfortable with others around you? How do you grow in a world that requires noise without really losing yourself? And honestly, these questions that I got asked, they stay heavy on my heart because I'm trying to really put to words how much I felt this and how much it became a thing for me when I constantly knew that I had to pass through this phase myself. And honestly, I get it. Be an introvert. I get it. I've been there. I'm still an introvert. And honestly, I'll tell you the truth. For years, I was the quiet, nervous kid. I used to stutter. I would avoid eye contact. Even got to a point in secondary school, I prayed that teachers wouldn't call on me to answer questions in class because I was terrified of saying something dumb. I just wanted to be invisible. And those fears, they followed me into adulthood. By 25, I was still shy. I was still anxious. I was still hiding. And my real life didn't really start until I decided to face those fears. But the first step really was a small step. It was just me talking about it. Me laughing at myself in the mirror when I make mistakes with certain words when I'm stuttering. It was me making jokes about how awkward it was to have this social anxiety. But then slowly, I realized that the fear was growing in silence. But the moment I took time to name it and to actually call it out, the moment I started putting myself out there, the fear began to shrink. But the truth I need to tell you again is this, that the breakthrough really is in facing your fear. It wasn't easy. There were days where I felt beat, where I realized something more powerful, which is fear doesn't disappear, but it loses its control when you face it. And when I finally stopped letting this fear define me, I discovered that I wasn't really that introverted. Yes, it's a strength for me. I started to see more and more into that. I just given up on this ability to actually show myself who I really am, to show the world all those uniqueness, all those beauty, that brilliance within me. And I just gave myself permission to show up bit by bit. And if I tell you the results of the things that has happened based on this step, you'll be amazed, you know? And the weird part is that for someone who thought he was an introvert, I've done some pretty daring things in my life. I was interviewed on NBC News Now. I've built a global audience of over 300,000 people. My stock photos have over 200 million views and close to 5,000, like 5 million downloads. I've started and hosted and produced 3 different successful podcasts. I've given TED Talks, right? I've done keynote speeches and I've done countless talks, interviews, workshops. And one of the most amazing things is that introversion didn't stop me. It was fear that almost did. Because I had this quiet personality, it didn't mean that I didn't have amazing things within me to give. It didn't mean that I couldn't be in the spotlight. So listen to me. You don't have to make loud waves to be considered as waves. You don't have to be loud. Like I don't even know how to express this because I'm really speaking from a place because I know it hurts. So you don't have to be loud to make waves, but you really have to step up because if you let fear define you, you never discover what you're truly capable of. So what do you actually do with these things I'm sharing with you? And oftentimes when I get these DMs around, I'm introverted, I feel it's stopping me. There are 4 things I share with people like this, which I believe they would also help you too. And the first thing is to highlight your strengths. Maybe you're thoughtful, maybe you're observant, or you are detail driven. That is a strength. Leverage it, lean into it. It doesn't mean the world won't really recognize it at first. The world doesn't need just noise. The world needs depth. It needs strategy. It needs focus. It needs richness. And you have these things because in your head, like they say, overthinkers, introverts, we process things in our minds over and over again. And this is the same situation with you. So let your heart, let your mind, let your spirit come alive. You're not loud, you're quiet. But that's quiet power. Let things work in a way that gives you not linear growth, but exponential growth. It starts slow, it starts small, but over time, it becomes something that is reaching the peak. Now, the next thing is to understand strategic exposure. I've talked to you about exposure. Remember? Yeah. If you haven't heard about that, if you haven't, listened to the exposure session I did, you should go back and listen to it because it will really change the way you see how to put yourself out there. But the truth is, don't try to fake being the loudest person in the room. Instead, take small, intentional steps. Like share behind the scenes, post a reflection post, do a collaboration with someone on the project. Each step builds your confidence. When I started, I did 90 days of short form video. And the reason why I did that was so that I could build momentum and skill and also understand how to practice speaking to the camera. And you might be hearing me talk to you right now and you're like, how is this guy able to do this thing, even though he's an introvert? It's quite simple. I took 90 days to practice, to rehearse, to understand the details, the ins and outs of speaking to the camera. It is intentional, which is why I said, take small, intentional steps. Take it as a project. Today, or this month, this year, I want to master being able to speak in public or address people that are like 5,000, 6,000. I started small. I had that goal to address 10,000 people one day, and I've done, I think 6,000 once. But then it didn't start as, oh, me just getting on the stage and just getting to talk to everybody. It started as taking up becoming the class representative when I was in uni. I remember that time we were doing a poll on who should become the next class governor, and a friend mentioned my name. And in my head, I'm like, well, maybe this is an opportunity to actually step into the spotlight. So I took up the position and addressing a class of 25, 30, it wasn't that bad. You know, sometimes I would stutter, I would phrase, I would stammer. But I did that for 2 years and I was able to build some level of confidence. And then before I knew it, in church, it switched to them telling me that, Dim, we would love you to take the announcement in front of 300 people. And I'm like, I don't think I can. But then I remembered this is the next step after 30. So I did that. I was sweating through my blazers. The pastor came to pat me on the back and said, don't worry, you get used to it. But I did that. And then started leading a fellowship in uni as well. And then eventually got to a point where we would normally go for something called NYSE in Nigeria. And I got chosen as the evangelism secretary, and we do something called Rural Road Grade. It's a rural outreach in villages where we go, we give healthcare, we preach about the Bible and tell them about God. We do a lot of activities. And I was coordinating over 3,000 youth in a village. And I was able to do that. And it started from 4 years before that, where I was just taking little steps to be able to face these fears, grow my confidence, and I became someone who could address people in public. Up until the time where I gave a 45 minutes storytelling session to creatives in a hall that took over 4,000 people. So you need to understand that every step builds your confidence. Now, the next thing I would advise you to do is to align with the right rooms. Not every brand, not every person will bring or will understand the value you bring or will bring value to you. So understand that that's okay. And then focus on finding people who do. People who, within that room that you're in at the moment, they understand the strengths it takes to do all these things. They encourage you to even be better. They realize that we need you and they will give you everything it takes to be able to do the things you really want to do. That's very important. Like, you don't have to work with everybody, but you can leverage strengths with the people who value the things you do. I will talk to you later about how to find these rooms. But for now, the most important thing you have to do right now is to self-validate. The most dangerous thing you can do is wait for approval. If you always need permission, you will never move. So you have to be your number one cheerleader. You have to cheer yourself into that place you want to be. You have to constantly move, encourage yourself. Just give yourself room to be who you really want to be. Give yourself room. I feel like we've been going on and on about this particular issue for way too long. But I'm going to speak to you the way I would normally do. And that fear will always exist, but it will shrink when you face it. You only get one shot at this life. So don't spend it hiding under the label of introvert. The world definitely doesn't need a louder version of you. It needs the truer version of you, that unique version of you. It needs it. We all do. I need it. If I didn't let my true version come into light, I won't be talking to you today. So my challenge to you is simple. What is one fear you've been avoiding? In the next 7 days, I want you to take one small step towards facing it. You don't have to conquer it all at once, but just start. Because you are not just an introvert. You're someone with a superpower that the world needs, and the world is waiting for you to use it. So would you deprive them? Would you make them go years languishing in agony troubling themselves over things that you have the solutions to. I don't think you should do that. I really don't think you should do that. So I really want you to be honest with me. Tell me, what are those things you're struggling with? What are those difficulties that you're experiencing? What are those struggles that you feel like every single day, it never leaves you? I'll leave you with my personal email address. So you can send me messages and I can promise you that I'll read them. If you send me DMs, it might be quite hard to get to that, but if you send me an email, I would definitely respond to you. And I really hope that I get to be a part of your growth, be a part of your change, your transformation, and just see the things you start to do with your life. Because you will notice that I've really been talking to you about business because a lot of the things I'll tell you about business is built on the personality that you eventually have. And if that personality is not sorted, if that person within is not well taken care of or is not refined and brought up into a more stable version, anything about business would not work. I've gone 10 years in this loop of trying to reorganize my business, my life, and all of that. But until I solved the bit of myself that needed to be fixed or that needed to be improved upon, my business didn't improve. It didn't grow. I wasn't able to, start the companies I started. The opportunities I got to speak on big stages wouldn't have come. So we're working on yourself. We're working on you, on the inner person. And when we get there, everything just goes and progresses. And I said I was going to do this next time I talk to you. And just give me a moment. Yeah. So I wrote this book. It's called Who Sets the Standard? And it's still one of those things that I've really put my heart and soul into. Basically, what I said is that it's a way to engineer your own success and your future. And if I'll take the time to read a section to you that I believe will really change your life, I'll read it to you. Now, I said something that the definition of success upheld by society happens to be the fairy tale we never stop hearing. A deceptive shortcut to happiness and a social construct we constantly feed on to console ourselves that we're living well with no self-validation or evaluation because it suits us to want something ready-made rather than to build something ourselves. And at the end of the entire book, it's something you can read in like maybe 2 hours, or if you're a fast reader, 30 minutes. Now, at the end, I asked a very important question: who sets the standard? And my advice to you would be, set your own healthy standards for success, happiness, and daily living. Don't let society dictate what will be acceptable for you if it means that you have to compromise your self-worth, your happiness, your health, and the quality of your life. And I ended it with, be in control. Now, I really don't talk about this book this much because, I don't know, I just feel like when the time is right, people will find it. But I'm letting you in on it. I'll put details on how you can maybe get a copy if you want to. But generally, when you send me an email, you can ask about it, or you can find it anywhere you think you can find books. And I'd love to hear from you. I really would love to hear from you. So make sure you do that if it's impressing your heart too. Thank you again for allowing me to speak to you. I know it takes a lot of time to sit still and listen to the things I tell you. And I'm grateful that you give me the opportunity to have some bit of your time to do this. So until next time, I hope you stay fine and stay safe and stay encouraged. And don't forget the challenge. It's quite important to do that. All right. Talk soon.